Hello you guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, you're watching BookedonCharity, and welcome to this video. I'm thinking that I might make this like a playlist, maybe a get to know my bookshelves playlist. I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out and play with the idea. But in today's video, I will be sharing with you the collection of African literature books that I own. Okay, so I've got 49 books specifically to show you guys, and let me first declare what I mean by African literature. So for me, it's any book that is set in the continent or written by an author from the continent or part of the diaspora. So I tried my best to pick out these books. I hope that I got everything correct. If not, it's all good. I'm still giving a book recommendation written by a POC author, and hopefully you guys will enjoy. So as I mentioned, I do have 49 books to share with you. However, I've added 3 more books specifically for this video because I don't have enough books in this specific subgenre to make a whole video out of it, and that will be the Caribbean books. I only own 3, so I'll be sharing 52 books with you today, and I want to read just a tiny little bit of the synopsis for you guys so that you can have some idea of what the book's about. Also for me, because unfortunately I have not read most of, probably like 99% of these books. Yeah, I want to do better, but I think the first step for me is to see how many books do I have going on, what books do I have going on, and start planning from there on. So grab your drink. I've got my iced coffee. Grab your drink because it's going to be a little bit of a long one. Firstly, getting into the Caribbean reads, I've got Sweet Hand, and this is by N.G. Peltier. This is a romance, and I believe that it is set in the Caribbean, which is why I picked it up. I think it's in Trinidad. So I'm just going to read a little bit off the back for you guys. I'll try to make this video as quick as possible. So it says, love is a piece of cake, right? For the first time in forever, lifelong rivals Cherise and Kieran are back in Trinidad at the same time. And while Kieran might have the most swoon-worthy smile, he's also the most annoying man Cherise has ever met. Unfortunately, avoiding him is impossible. With Kieran's close friend getting ready to marry Cherise's sister, he's just been made the best man to her maid of honor. I mean, we've seen this kind of trope a couple of times now. Best man and maid of honor kind of like not liking each other, but end up getting together at the end. Next up, I've got Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennisman. I started this book a few years ago, and I hit a point where I got triggered, and I stopped. It was very heavy and I couldn't pick it up again, but I definitely want to give it a chance, and I would have to restart this book. So it says, in this radiant, highly anticipated debut, a cast of unforgettable women battle for independence while a maelstrom of change threatens the Jamaican village. An opulent resort in Montego Bay, Jamaica, Margot hustles to send her younger sister Tandy to school. Taught as a girl to trade her sexuality for survival, Margot is ruthlessly determined to shield Tandy from the same fate. When plans for a new hotel threatens their village, each woman fighting to balance the burdens she shoulders with the freedom she craves must confront long-hidden scars. See what I mean? Lots of trigger warnings in this one, so I had to stop for a bit. I'll come back to it when I feel okay. And then the third Caribbean book I have is by Bernardine Evaristo, and this one is called Girl, Woman, Other. I've heard kind of like good things about it, but I know some people complain about the writing style in here, that there were no commas, there's no full stops, nothing like that, but maybe it's meant to read in a certain way, and if probably there's an audiobook of it, it will also make it a bit easier. So it says, this is Britain as you've never read it. This is Britain as it has never been told, from the top of the country to the bottom, across more than a century of change and growth and struggle and life. Girl, Woman, Other follows 12 very different characters on an entwined journey of discovery. It is future, it is past, it is fiction, it is history. It is a novel about who we are now. This actually sounds good. I've never actually read the back of the book. So that was the 3 Caribbean books that I've got to show you. And then getting into the African lit, I've got, first of all, Helen Oyeyemi's What Is Not Yours, It Is Not Yours. And at the back it says, here, take this key. It might open a house, a heart, a secret. What links each of the stories in Helen Oyeyemi's collection is keys. Keys that are gifts, threats, invitations, getaways. Keys that haven't found their locks. Here, as characters slip from their pages of their own stories only to surface in another, you will find vanished libraries and locked gardens, lovers exchanging books and roses, and a city where all the clocks have stopped. Hey, this sounds interesting. It sounds very interesting. And there's a key. It's almost like it feels like reading the synopses of Piranesi. It feels deep, but also you have no idea where it could go. And yeah, looking forward to reading this one. It's a pretty short one as well. The next Helen Oyeyemi book I've got is called Pieces. This is their latest release. I believe this was released last year or the year before. At the back it says, Pieces is the story of Otto and Xavier Shin, a couple who embark on a mysterious train journey that takes them far beyond any destination they could have ever anticipated. As they roll along, Otto and Xavier discover that each carriage is more curious and fascinated than the last, becoming embroiled in intrigue aboard this strange train. Who is Ava Kapoor, the sole full-time inhabitant of the train, and what is her relationship to a man named Prem? Are they passengers or prisoners? We discover who orchestrated the journey, hurtling them all into their past for clues. This is a brilliant, wise, strange, and above all beautiful novel. So that's what Pieces is about. And then we've got His Only Wife by Peace Azor Mehdi, and at the back it says Afi Tekpo is a young seamstress living in a small town in Ghana with a widowed mother. Afi's future doesn't seem to hold much excitement until that is she is offered a life-changing opportunity, a proposal of marriage from the wealthy family of Elikem Ganyor. She barely knows Elikem, but that seems a small price to pay for a marriage that could offer her family financial security as well as the key to the glitter city lifestyle she's always wanted. But when Afi arrives in Accra, she realizes that her fairy tale ending might not be all that she'd hoped for. Now she must balance her often conflicting roles of wife, daughter, niece, and sister-in-law without losing sight of herself. Sounds good. Next one I've got is How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House, and this is by Sherry Jones. And it says, in Baxter's Beach, Barbados, Lala's grandmother Wilma tells her a cautionary tale about what happens to girls who disobey their mothers. For Wilma, it's the story of a willful adventurer who ignores the warnings of those around her and suffers as a result. When Lala grows up, she sees the story offers hope and of life and love after losing a baby in the most terrible of circumstances and marrying the wrong man. Hey, this one also sounds very, very deep. This is the thing about African literature books. Most of them are so trauma-based that is the one very big reason that I don't normally just pick up African lit. Because they're heavy. Like, I feel like you need to be in the right space to consume it and properly enjoy it. And even the ones that are like drama filled or supposed to be fun, there's always just some underlying traumatic experience. Okay, next one I've got is Mame, and it says, meet Eddie Wright. All her life she's been told who she is. To her Ghanaian parents, she's Mame, the one who takes care of the family, her mom's stand-in, her dad's carer, the one who keeps the peace and the secrets. It's time for her to speak up. When she finally gets a chance to leave home, Maddie is determined to become the woman she wants to be. One who wears a bright yellow suit, stands up to her boss, and dates men who definitely aren't on her mom's list of prospective husbands. Someone who doesn't have to Google all her life choices. But when tragedy strikes, Mary is forced to face the risks and rewards of putting her heart on the line. Will it take losing everything to find her voice? Question mark. We don't know. we'll have to see. Next one I got is A Quick Mezi's The Death of Vivek Oji. This is actually on my TBR for this month, and it says they burnt down the market on the day Vivek Oji died. One afternoon, a mother opens her front door to find the length of her son's body stretched out on the veranda, swaddled in a quete material, his head on her welcome mat. The death of Vivek Oji transports us to the day of Vivek's birth, the day his grandmother's Ahuna died. It is the story of an overprotective mother and a distant father, and the heart-wrenching tale of one family's struggle to understand their child, just as Vivek learns to recognize himself. I've heard amazing things about this one, so looking forward to picking it up. And then a recent read called The List by Yomi Adegoke, and the synopsis is where. So in this book, we follow a couple, Ola and Michael, and they are engaged, about to be married in a month's time. Ola works in the publishing space. She's a writer for, I think, a women's magazine, and they usually write about women's rights and things like that. And the whole story starts off the morning when social media blasts off because a list has been published of abusive men, and they've been listed by name, and it happens that her fiance is on that list. So going through this journey to figure out what did he do to basically end up on this list where he keeps saying, I didn't do anything, this is lies. And she's just like, how do I trust you? And it makes it a bit difficult for her because based on her career and her work, this is the kind of thing that she would jump on straight away and write about. But now she's conflicted with the idea of, if I write this and my husband-to-be is actually innocent, I incriminate him with everybody else. But also, how do I know that he's not lying? Because everybody else is saying they didn't do it, even though people know and have proof that they've done these things. So it was an enjoyable read. I think I gave it like a 4.5 star rating. But yeah, enjoy this one. And then I've got We Need New Names by Novalet Bulawayo, and it says 10-year-old Darling has a choice. It's down or out. In a shanty called Paradise, Darling and her friends spend their days stealing guavas and singing Lady Gaga, all while grasping at memories of life before and dreaming of escape, a dream that one day comes true for Darling. But as Darling discovers, her new life in America is a far cry from what she imagined, and this new world brings with it dangers of its own. Okay, looking forward to this one day. The next book I have is The Old Drift, and this is by Namwali Sapal, and it says, on the banks of the Zambezi River, a few miles from the majestic Victoria Falls, there was once a colonial settlement called the Old Drift. In 1904, in a smoking room at the hotel across the river, an old drifter named Percy M. Clark, foggy with fever, makes a mistake that entangles his fate with those of an Italian hotelier and an African busboy. So begins a cycle of unwitting retribution between three Zambian families as they collide and converge over the course of the century into the present and beyond. And then we've got Lagos Noir, and this is edited by Chris Abani, and it hosts a long list of Nigerian authors, and it's a short story collection. So it says Lagos has, like many coastal cities, a very checkered and noir past. It is the largest city in Nigeria and its former capital. It is also the largest megacity of the African continent, with a population approximating 21 million, and by itself it is the fourth largest economy in Africa. It is rumored that there are more canals in Lagos than in Venice, except in Lagos they are often unintentional gutters that have become waterways and lagoons fenced in by stilts, homes, or full of logs for a timber industry most of us don't know exists. All of it skated by canoes as slick as any dragonfly. There are currently no moonlight or other gondola rides available. So I've had this for a little bit. I have not picked it up yet. I don't know when I will. The next book I have is The Shadow King, and this is by Maza Mengistu. I actually started this when I got up 50% in, but the writing was so dense and the story moves so slowly that I decided to put it down and try again some other time, but the story itself was quite interesting to me, and I want to go back to this book. Oh, it's even getting dirty. So it says, Ethiopia 1935. With the threat of Mussolini's army looming, recently orphaned Herat struggles to adapt to her new life as a maid. Kidane, an officer in Emperor Haile Selassie's army, rushes to mobilize his strongest men before the Italians invade. Herat and the other women long to do more than care for the wounded and bury the dead. When the Emperor Haile Selassie goes into exile and Ethiopia quickly loses hope, it is Herat who offers a plan to maintain morale. She helps disguise a gentle peasant as the emperor and soon becomes his god, inspiring other women to take up arms. But how could she have predicted her own personal war still to come as a prisoner of one of Italy's most vicious officers? I never even got to the part where Herat was a prisoner. My goodness. So yeah, definitely want to pick up The Shadow King again. Maybe since it's been like 2 years since I picked it up, and my reading has gotten better, faster, maybe it won't feel as long. And then I've got Love in Color by Boli Babalola. So it says mythical tales from around the world retold. A high-born Nigerian goddess feels beaten down and unappreciated by her gregarious lover and longs to be truly seen. A crime lord finds herself swept up in a love that could threaten the entire dynasty she has built and those she protects within it. A powerful Ghanaian spokeswoman is forced to decide whether to uphold her family's politics or to be true to her heart. So this is a collection of like love stories based around African women, and obviously they mention mythical tales as well. So yeah, looking forward to finally picking this one up. I've heard great things about it. And then we've got Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's The Thing Around Your Neck. And this one says, from the author of Half of Yellow Sun and Americana comes 12 dazzling stories. Adichie turns a penetrating eye on the ties that bind men and women, parents and children, Nigeria and the West, on love and dislocation, violence and faith, and the moments of epiphany that illuminate the beauty and desperation of ordinary lives. I personally love Chimamanda's work. I absolutely enjoyed Half of the Yellow Sun. It was my favorite book from her so far. And with that said, we've got Half of the Yellow Sun. My copy is so battered, you guys, because it's been borrowed to other people and they didn't take care of it. Now I feel that I need to replace it. So this one says, in 1960s Nigeria, 3 lives intersect. Ugu works as a houseboy for a university lecturer. Olana has abandoned her life of privilege to live with her charismatic lover, the lecturer. Richard, a shy Englishman, is enthralled to Olana's enigmatic twin sister. Amongst the horror of Nigeria's civil war, loyalties are tested as they are pulled apart and thrown together in ways that none of them imagined. This book broke me, but it was so good. And then I've got Akweke Imezi's Freshwater. I still have the 78 Rand sticker that I'm struggling to take out, but it says, Ada has always been unusual. Her parents prayed her into existence, but something must have gone awry. The troubled child begins to develop separate selves and is prone to fits of anger and grief. When Ada grows up and heads to college in America, a traumatic event crystallizes the selves into something more powerful. As Ada fades into the background of her own mind, these alters, now protective, now hedonistic, take control, shifting her life in a dangerous direction. Oh, yeah, this sounds heavy, sounds deep. Oh, let me take a sip. Yummy. Okay, we're not even halfway through this deck. I've got like books surrounding me. And then we've got the African Lookbook, a visual history of 100 years of African women. So this book is written by a non-POC author. However, it features African women across the continent. And like it says, it is a lookbook. So it says, an unprecedented visual history of African women told in striking and subversive historical photographs, featuring an introduction by Adinge Dantikat and a foreword by Jacqueline Woodson. So I don't know if you'll be able to get a glimpse of what's happening in this book, but there's a lot of photography in here, and it's old photography, and in a lot of them there's also some text that go with the photography, and I'm looking forward to it. I haven't really gotten the chance to read through it, but I've taken a look at some of the photographs, and beautiful. And then I've got She Called Me Woman, Nigeria's Queer Women Speak. This is also a collection of short stories, and it's edited by Azina Mohammed and Chitra Nagarajan and Rafiat Ali. Oh my goodness, I hope I'm saying all that correctly. So it says, She Called Me Woman challenges us to rethink the concept of women and explores issues such as negotiating relationships, money, sexuality, and freedom, identifying outside the gender binary, and the difficulties of achieving hopes and dreams in a climate of fear. It also holds a mirror up to Nigeria's society and finds much more acceptance, support, and love from colleagues, friends, and families than politicians, the media, and popular narratives would have us believe. I've got quite a number of short story collections, and I'm a little worried because I don't do well with short story collections. I think there's only one short story collection that I actually loved. Everything else I've kind of struggled with. Okay, next I've got Dele Wit's Destiny. I've been excited about this one because it sounded to me like it would be a fun read, but I don't remember the synopsis like all the way. So it says Zainab, Funmi, and Annie Tan first meet at a university in northern Nigeria. It's an experience that binds the three very different women together. And Annie Tan moves to New York to elope with a white man. Zainab and Funmi are left behind with drastically different fortunes. Over the next 30 years, their lives diverge and change. Enitan is separating from her husband while trying to understand her daughter Remy. Zainab finds herself the sole breadwinner for her husband and their four sons. And Funmi is living a life of confined luxury as the wife of a successful, shady businessman. But theirs is a friendship that can endure decades of distance, and in 2015 they are reunited for the first time for the wedding of Funmi's daughter, Destiny. So yeah, this is Dele Wit's Destiny. Should probably start another pile. And then we've got The First Woman, and this is by Jennifer Nansubuka Makumbi. And this one says, dazzling feminist coming-of-age tale from the award-winning author of Chinsu for one young girl discovering what it means to become a woman in a family, a community, and a country determined to silence her will take all the courage she has. This is based in Uganda. Growing up in a small Ugandan village, Kirabo is surrounded by powerful women. Her grandmother, her aunts, her friends, and cousins are all desperate for her to conform, but Kirabo is inquisitive, headstrong, and determined. Up until now, she has been perfectly content with her life at the heart of this prosperous extended family. But as she enters her teenage years, she begins to feel the absence of the mother she has never known. The First Woman follows Kirabo on her journey to become a young woman and finding her place in the world as her country is transformed by the bloody dictatorship of Idi Amin. Looking forward to this one. And then, still from the same author, we've got Manchester Hatpin, and this one says an ambitious and a short collection of short stories from the international acclaimed author of Chinsu. Again, if there's one thing the characters in Jennifer Makumbi's stories know, it's how to field an uncomfortable question. Let me buy you a cup of tea. What are you doing in England? Do these children of yours speak any Luganda? Did you know that man, Idi Amin? But perhaps the most difficult questions of all is the one they ask themselves. You mean this is England? Told with empathy, humor, and compassion, these vibrant kaleidoscopic stories reimagine the journey of Ugandans who choose to make England their home. Weaving between Manchester and Kampala, this dazzling collection will captivate anyone who has ever wondered what it means to truly belong. And then we've got Patience is a Subtle Thief, and this is by Abi Ishola Ayodeji. Beautiful cover. It says, would she get caught? She remembered that she had long been acquainted with uncertainty. One day we will meet again, her mother had said in her letter, but her mother had not come for her. Her father gave her no explanation, and she could no longer wait. For her mother's words to stand, she would have to make them true. And then we've got A Black and Female by Tsitsi Dangareba. And it says, being characterized as black and female does not constrain my writing. Writing assures me that I am more than merely blackness and femaleness. Writing assures me I am. This paradigm-shifting essay collection weaves the personal and political in an illuminating exploration of internationally acclaimed novelist Tsitsi Dangarengba's complex relationship with race and gender. At once philosophical, intimate, and urgent, Dangarengba's landmark essays address for the first time the profound cultural and political questions that underpin her novels. So I've never even read anything from her, so I hope that I will be able to figure that out. Maybe I should start by reading this Marable Body by Tsitsi Dangarengba. And it says, when Tambuzai first set out to rebuild the financial and social status she spent her youth working for, she could not have known that every move she made would bring her one step closer to sacrificing the dignity of her family and community. Her choices seem innocuous. She moves from a run-down youth hostel in downtown Harare to a widow's boarding house, and she finds work first as a biology teacher, and then in the optimistic field of ecotourism. But when a long overdue homecoming culminates in a humiliating spectacle, Tambuzai is forced to consider whether it was her circumstances or her decisions that brought her to this breaking point. Another one by Tsitsi, and then we've got Transcendent Kingdom by Yagyasi, and this one says, as a child, Gifty would ask her parents to tell the story of her journey from Ghana to Alabama, seeking escape in myths of heroism and romance. When her father and brother succumb to the hard reality of immigrant life in the American South, their family of four becomes two, and the life Gifty dreamed of slips away. Years later, desperate to understand the opioid addiction that destroyed her brother's life, she turns to science for answers. But when her mother comes to stay, Gifty soon learns that the roots of their tangled traumas reach further than she ever thought. Tracing her family's history through continents and generations will take her deep into the dark heart of modern America. Oh, another trauma build. But I heard good things. And then I've got The Madhouse by T.J. Benson, and it says, the madhouse at the end of Freetown Street in Nigeria's Sabon Gari was once a sanatorium for colonists deranged from the heat and insanity of the place. Now it is home to a family whose unorthodox lives unfold into legend. Sweet mother, an artist, husband Sharif, a writer and soldier, and their children Andre and Max. From the moment that his baby brother Andre is born, Max attaches himself to him, and even dreaming the boy's homicidal dreams. When the wayward Andre later pulls free from the family to join a death cult and jumps off a building in the States during a bizarre performance, Max must decide how far he will be drawn into his brother's web. What? I've never read the synopsis that far. And then I've got Yinka. Where is your husband? And it says Yinka wants to find love. Her mom wants to find it for her. But how can she find a husband when she is surrounded by her many aunties who frequently and loudly pray for her delivery from singledom, has a preference for chicken and chips over traditional Nigerian food, and has a bum she's sure is far too small as a result? Oh, and the fact that she's 31 years old South Londoner who doesn't believe in SCX before marriage is a bit of an obstacle too. I have to spell it out because Little Miss Mamas is right next to me. And then I've got Touch. You can read the bottom. And this is also a collection of short stories compiled by Tiffany Kaguremugo and Kim Van Vogel, I think. And it says for adults. So it says intimacy and love, past shame and hurt, current pleasure and play, ongoing disappointment or surprise. What comes to mind when you think about SCX? Touch explores SCX as a vast yet intertwined experience with oneself and between people. It draws on the experiences of sex from people across genders, sexualities, even borders. Sometimes political, sometimes personal, and often beautiful. Touch delves into the many ways in which SCX features into our lives. I should have mentioned that at this point, the rest of the books that I'm going to show you are actually by South African authors, and I believe I've got 26 books, my collection of African literature that actually belongs to South African authors. This one is called Years of Fire and Ash. It is South African poems of decolonization, and it's edited by Wamui Mbao. It says contemporary poet Mjele Msimang captures something of today's zeitgeist in his poem Born to the Grave. But what of the past half century of protest poetry in South Africa, a rich tradition born in response to colonialism and fed by apartheid and a faltering democracy? In years of fire and ash, South African poems of decolonization, over 50 years of protest poetry are gathered in a single volume, bringing together some of the most remarkable and thought-provoking poems that have emerged from struggle. The animating impulse behind this collection of old and new voices is decolonization, a term which has regained prominence over the last few years. It allows us to perceive how different South African poets have placed their work in the world and how that work might relate to the struggle for racial, social transformation. I think this is the only poetry book that I actually own. All right, and then I've got A Soft Life, and this is by Lebohang Masango. It says, love, choice, and modern dating. Become more feminine and traditional. Only date men with money, tick. Forget splitting the bill 50-50, tick. Embrace the standard of beauty and with gusto, tick. This is the mantra of the modern soft life coach. Why live a life of drudgery and overwork when you can recline in the arms of a Prince Charming? But is this a new or passing trend? Romance and finance have flirted with each other for a long time. From gold digger and sponsor to sugar baby and sugar daddy to blesser and blessee. Across the world and throughout history, whom women date has been as important as their career paths or where they live. Thanks to patriarchy, dating and marriage are among the ways women move up in the world. It's a very short one, a book that I definitely want to pick up very, very soon, hopefully before the end of this year. Next up, we've got Scatterlings, and this is by Rishoketswe Manenze. And it says, this was the reason she had burst into his room then. It wasn't just a walk that she waited to enjoy. She wanted to discuss the implications of the so-called Immorality Act, to infect him with the panic she seemed so eager to carry. Well, at least he had enjoyed a morning walk with her, a walk that she had asked for even if her intentions were clearly far from pure. South Africa, 1927. In this journey, someone will get lost, someone will give up and turn back, and someone may go all the way to the end. All of these people will try to tell you the story of what happened. Abram, a South African winemaker, will tell you that things went wrong when his wife stopped loving him, when his children couldn't be citizens of their country of birth, and his country tried to put him in prison, steal his vote and his estate. He will also tell you that, in a twist of irony, his treason came about because he loved his wife and children. Oh, Rishakuzo is a chemical engineer, writer, and enthusiastic novice pizza maker. Interesting. Looking forward to this one. And then I've got Kinky Roots by Ingrid Arlington, which is a memoir. Ingrid is currently living in the UK, is Zimbabwean, born in South Africa, or something along those lines. It says, the day I felt lost, aimless, and purposeful, I had received a rejection from an employment agent saying I didn't get the 33rd job that I'd applied for. Whilst sitting on the couch watching NCIS reruns and stuffing my face with all manner of snacks, I felt like a black Bridget Jones, except I wasn't trying to quit smoking and I already had the man. Now, you might ask how I got myself into this unemployment situation, feeling all sorry for myself. The easy answer is that I moved from South Africa to the UK with Alex, my husband of 9 years, to pursue happiness and the European dream, but without a plan of how to do this. The difficult answer, I guess, starts a year after arriving from the introduction. Interesting stuff. And then I've got I Did Not Die, and this is a novel by Tebello Mzamo. And it says, I am here to take what's mine. Butupere finds work as a miner in South Africa and has to leave his wife Ntadisi and their 2 children in Lesotho. Almost 3 years go by without news from Butu, and the resourceful Ntadisi is left taking care of their family. But it is ultimately their secrets that threaten to unravel the already delicate thread that has been holding them together. Alright, and then I've got Red Ink by Angela Makolwa. I actually had the pleasure of meeting her yesterday at the Pan Macmillan event, and it says, when public relations consultant and ex-journalist Lucy Kambule, young, beautiful and ambitious, receives an unexpected call from Napoleon Dingiswayo, a convicted serial killer nicknamed the Butcher by the media, her life takes a dramatic turn. Dingiswayo wants Lucy to tell his story. Intrigued by Dingiswayo's approach, Lucy decides to take this opportunity to fulfill her lifelong dream of writing a book, but it comes at a cost she could never have imagined. What? Sounds sounds interesting. And since I'm in like my thriller mode, because Angela writes a lot of like thriller, crime thriller type books. And then I've got a recent release from her, and this one's called The Read Dance Stalker. And it says, and in breaking news, convicted serial killer and rapist Napoleon Dingiswaya escapes from Pretoria CMEX prison at 12:15 this afternoon. Doesn't this sound like something that's happening right now? Okay, so I'm glad that I have this because it seems like this follows this, right? Because it says, in breaking news, convicted serial killer and rapist Napoleon Dingiswaya escapes from Pretoria CMEX prison at 12:15 this afternoon, which kind of sounds like type of Bester story, but I feel like, should I even be reading here? Because will it ruin this one? I don't know. No, I'm not reading the synopsis because it's definitely following red ink, so I would need to read red ink first. Okay, and then I've got Sunshine and Shadows, and this is by Busiseki Lekumalo, and it says, I decided that struggle love is the pits. You do not hang a Picasso piece in the back room. You hang it in a mansion. Vibai, a final year law student at the University of Zimbabwe, is determined not to join the long line of unemployed graduates. She would rather trade sexual favors to get a job than go back to living with her aunt turned stepmother. Unlike her roommate Nosike, the good girl who mistakenly falls in love with the wrong man, Vi prides herself on being pragmatic, even if that means making an enemy out of Ruby, the spoiled socialite who is leading a double life. But in Vimbai's search for someone who can offer her the opulence and grandeur of the Sunshine City, she dances too close to the sun, burns, and gets plunged into the shadows that lurk in the underbelly of her dream city. And then I've got A Soft Landing by Wisani Mushwana. It says, Anzani and Nero are young and in love. They made a pact to leave their hometown of Mbamba Menisi in search of unimpeded freedom. When Noah unexpectedly passes away, Anzani is left with no other choice but to fulfill their dreams alone. Years later, this town becomes a shadow in Anzani's Cape Town life, but he carries the unpleasant memories of home within him. The monotony of his accountant job and random grinder hookups offer minimal respite when he meets Yolula. They start spending a lot of time together, but Yolula can tell there's something or someone holding Anzani back. The past ruptures the present when Anzani receives a phone call alerting him to his mother's deteriorating mental health. And on his trip back to said town, as if given a last chance, long repressed memories of trauma flood his head and force him to reckon with the shadows of his past. A Soft Landing explores the courage to love and be loved, but it sounds like a lot of trauma. It just sounds like a lot of trauma. And then I've got The Scandalous Times of a Book Loss, a memoir of a childhood by Robert Mpunde, and it says, you've arrived. Sit down, please, and make yourself comfortable. There may not be much dinner tonight. Father is still out of work. Mother can't do anything with those stunted maize plants in the stony ground. But at least you are here in Gushure village, home to unsurpassed raconteurs and the Gura Mantunu family who know that telling stories staves off hunger. Surprise awaits at every turn. Thoughts and conversations bloom into poems, political speeches, and songs. You will find instructions for cooking a hare, for how to defend yourself when a dead snake is your enemy's chosen weapon, how to speak in war tongues, how to compose a fist and aim it at a tree trunk, how to eliminate animal terrorism in a time of rabies, how to rehearse the body viewing of a good-looking corpse, how to rock under flying okapis with the double shuffle, and how to practice your love-making technique on a woman drawn in the sand. At a time when cooked ants constitute a feast, the future nevertheless holds abundant prospects for the boy who devours words. But there is an unexpected fork in the road for this book class and plenty of wondrous twists and shocking turns. And then I've got When Morning Comes, and this is by Arushi Raina, and it says, Johannesburg, South Africa, 1976. Zanele is skipping school and secretly plotting against the apartheid government. The police can't know, her mother and sister can't know, her best friend Tabo, schoolboy turned Tsotsi, can tell she's up to something. But he has troubles of his own, a deal gone wrong, and some powerful enemies. Across the bridge in the wealthy white suburbs, Jack plans to spend his last days in Johannesburg before leaving for university, burning miles on his beat-up Mustang until he meets a girl with an unforgettable face from the black township on the edge of revolt, Soweto. Mina, the daughter of an Indian shopkeeper, finds a packet of banned pamphlets. They lead to a mysterious black girl with a secret, a dangerous gangster with expensive tasting clothes, and an engaging white boy who drives a battered red car. A series of chance meetings change everything. A chain of events is set in motion, a failed plot, a murdered teacher, and a secret movement of students that has spread across the township. And the students will rise. Obviously, this is like a June 16 based book. And then we've got Dr. T, A Guide to Sexual Health and Pleasure by Dr. Takealot Wishlist, holding an MBCHB. And it says the indomitable Dr. Takealot Wishlist, affectionately known as Dr. T, is passionate about making sexual health and well-being services available to all, regardless of the sexual and gender identities and their economic status. This updated edition of her best-selling book is filled with the specifics of sexual anatomy and the health, as well as advice and facts about pleasure and sexual rights, and includes additional resources along with new sections to birth control as well as sex and pleasure during the time of COVID. This book now, I've had it for a while. The font is so tiny. It's so tiny. It's the only thing that has made me not pick it up. And then we've got Bantu Knots. This is by Lebo Mazibuko. I actually heard good things about this one. It says it's not just hair mini, even though hair is one way we use to express ourselves. Young Naledi wants to trade her Bantu Knots for Nontle Tema's hair on the dark and lovely box. She grows up in Soweto with her strict grandmother, Mama Noir. During the day, she lives vicariously through her characters in Ndende Street, and at night, she recites Bible verses with Mama. Meanwhile, her mother, Dineo, is out chasing the blessed lifestyle. When Lady starts university away from Mama's watchful eyes, there are men, love, parties, feminism, art, politics, and SEX. Bantu Knots is the coming-of-age story of a young black woman in South Africa finding her voice. It explores the complexity of mother-daughter relationships and trying to understand each other. We follow Lady as she forgives a father who denies her, navigates the pressures of her circumstances, womanhood, relationships, and beauty ideals, and pursues her dreams in spite of it all. We've got Confessions of a Ginger Pudding by Zelda Bazenodo. It says, when Anelia moves to a new town in the middle of the year, she decides to recreate herself. New town, new school, operation, and new Anelia. She can be the mysterious, worldly new girl. But within days, everyone sees right through her fake new persona. And guess what? A couple of kids actually like the real Anelia. Like Devalt Fari, whose crooked smile does weird things to her heart. She becomes the brain behind the school's exciting new food truck. And for a while, life is sweeter than a chocolate brownie. But nothing good lasts forever. Especially if you're a milky white redhead with a name that sounds like a medicinal ointment. But yeah, looking forward to this one. Obviously, this is written by a white author following a white character, but it's based in South Africa. So I don't know, does it really belong in this pile? I don't know if it does, but this is a YA and I'm looking forward to reading it. And then we've got a trilogy, Simpiwe Gloria Ndlovu, and this is the history of flight, the history of man, and the quality of mercy. And I think it is called the History of Flight trilogy. And I'm just going to read the synopsis of this one. On the 3rd of September, not so long ago, something truly wondrous happened on the Beaufort farm and estate. At the moment of her death, Imogen Zula Nyoni, Ginny, was seen to fly away on a giant pair of silver wings. Said to have hatched from a golden egg, Ginny spends her childhood playing in a field of sunflowers, and her country reawakens after a fierce civil war. But Ginny's story stretches back much further. It tells of her grandfather who quenched his wanderlust by walking into the Indian Ocean, and of her father who spent countless hours building model airplanes to catch up with. It is a tale of her mother, a singer self-styled after Dolly Parton, with a dream of traveling to Nashville, and of her grandmother who did everything in her power to raise her children to have character. With the lightest of touches, a cast of unforgettable characters and moments of surreal beauty, the theory of flight sketches decades of history in this unnamed southern African nation. It does not dwell on what has been lost in its war, but on the daily triumphs of its people, the necessity of art, and the power of its visionaries to take flight. Here is book 2. And there is book 3. We've got Dreaming in Color by Uvile Ximba. And this one says, in her debut novel, Dreaming in Color, Uvile Ximba explores the subtly humor and probing insight to the connections between the joyful reclaiming of pleasure and the healing of buried traumas. Okay, it's little trauma. Oh, Africans, why do we love trauma so much? As the students at University of Makanda during the Rhodes Must Fall campaign, Langa and her lover Kwezi have a passionate and complex relationship. Puzzling gaps in her memory haunt Langa, yet her dreams are vivid with colors and symbols that hint at a nightmare of forgotten violations and losses. Yo, so many secrets, and Langa has had enough of secrets and silences. Who can she turn to? Her mother, her grandmother, Kwezi, or herself? Dreaming in Color is Langa's story of coming out to herself, of discerning the history behind the closed doors of conscious memory. I'm afraid. I am afraid. And then we've got Things My Mother Left Me by Bulani Mlilopondo. One thing I know about this book is that the writing is so beautiful. It says that I hear them climb onto my roof, the men. They have given up all negotiations with the door. But the roof is no good either. It's too hot up there. The corrugated iron that covers my home is quick to gather and boast of the heat. That iron roof makes life uncomfortable. It bakes and heaves with the heat, playing musical chairs, making us unwelcome visitors in our own home. That roof is cruel, and now it is burning the souls of the men who are trying to save our lives. Think My Mother Left Me is a debut collection of stories. I didn't even know it was a collection of stories that trace the lives of women in varied contexts, women who refuse to be erased by the circumstances that render them invisible, women who insist that they not only want to stay alive, but to do so on their own terms. Mpondo challenges the reader to think deeply about the consequences of growing up in the other South Africa, where one is constantly met with the harsh realities caused by inequality, poverty, broken homes, and the inevitable empty promises made every fourth quarter. With its lyrical prose, Things My Mother Left Me will break, then gather the pieces of the reader's heart. Yes, sis. I'm reminded that a mother's prayers do not go unheard, nor her tears unseen. I also love that there's photos in here. There's one of the photos there. So looking forward to picking this one up. And then I've got An Angel's Demise by Sue Nyati. And it says An Angel's Demise is an epic saga that explores the contested legacy and the heart-rending destiny of a family. The year is 1977 and the story begins on a farm in Somambula with the birth of Angel. The farm is run by Paul Williams, an outwardly harsh and bigoted man who holds the livelihoods of many in his hands. When Angel's parents join the liberation struggle, she is left with the care of her grandmothers who have been in service to the Williams family for generations. Angel grows up on the farm over 3 momentous decades that see a convoluted past and inheritance unfold into an equally complicated present. Through her, we see a woman's quest to unearth her identity and assert her independence in the process of self-discovery. Angel realizes that sometimes you need to be uprooted before you can grow. And then by the same author, I've got The Gold Diggers, and it says it's 2008 and the height of Zimbabwe's economic demise. A group of passengers is huddled in a Toyota Quantum about to embark on a treacherous expedition to the city of gold. They have paid a high price for the dangerous passage to what they believe is a better life and escape from the vicious vagaries of their present life in Bulawayo. With their might, the streets of Johannesburg are paved with gold, but they will have to dig deep to get close to any gold, dirtying themselves in the process. Told with brave honesty and bold description, the stories of the individual immigrants are simultaneously heartbreaking and heartwarming. And then I've got Black Consciousness, a love story, and this is by Hlumelo Biko. It says, if Steve Biko was still alive today, we would have a country that gladly embraces African culture as the dominant driving force for how society is organized. In 1968, 2 young medical students, Steve Biko and Mampela Rampele, fell in love while dreaming of a life free from oppression and racial discrimination. Their love story is also the story of the founding of the Black Consciousness movement by a group of 15 principled and ambitious students at the University of Natal in Durban in the early 1970s. In this deeply personal book, Hlumelo Biko, who was born of Steve and Mampela's union, movingly recounts his parents' love story and how Black Conscious movement's message of Black self-love and self-reliance helped to change the course of South African history. Based on interviews with some of the Black conscious movement's founding members, Black consciousness described the early years of the movement in a vivid detail and sets out its guiding principle around a positive Black identity, Black theology, and the practice of Ubuntu through community-based programs. This sounds good. I thought it would be more dramatic like all the other books I've got going on here. And then finally I've got When the Village Sleeps, and this is by Sindiwe Magona. All the way to school and all day long, the same thought kept turning and turning in Busi's mind. He will not forget my birthday. It is also his. No way could he forget his own birthday. Surely he remembers he shares it with me, his beloved daughter. We spoke about it during our weekly visits, as he calls our scheduled Sunday afternoon telephone talks. And today is not any old ordinary birthday either. 13. I am a teenager at last, certified, verified, and glorified. Should I call him? No, it is a special day for me. He must call first. Tina Sobatini. We two? We jive. Except that whole long day, no call came from her father. When the Village Sleeps is a visionary novel about what the loss of identity and dignity do to a people afflicted by decades of brokenness. Yo, trauma. Told through the lives and spirits of 4 generations of Amatolo women, including the old who speak wisdom with their ever-increasing urgency. It moves between the bustling township setting of Kwanele and the different rhythms of rural life. It recalls the sweeping sagas of the great A.C. Jordan and the Dlomo brothers and invokes poetry of S.E.K. Nkai, while boldly exploring urgent and contemporary issues. An ode to the complex strength of South African women, When the Village Sleeps is also a powerful call to respect the earth that nurtures human life and to live in a self-sufficiency and harmony with the environment and each other. I love that last part. But yeah, this is the final book in this video. My goodness, let me catch my breath. If you made it this far in this video, thank you so much for watching and getting this far in the video. Leave me a comment. Do we have the African continent? I don't know if we do. If we do not have the African continent as an emoji, please leave me any flag of any country in Africa. And yeah, that will be it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that this video has helped you find some books that you can pick out and read and enjoy. And let me know if you've read any of these books. Recommend some African literature that you've loved over the years as well. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.